as well. Okay. Here we go then. Yeah, quite a lot of strategy going on here. Drivers pitting to cover each other off, because this is one of the races where strategy is very, very key, and the undercut is super powerful. You know, we saw Nico Hulkenberg coming out of the pits on a set of hard tyres and setting the fastest lap of the race compared to a couple of lap-old medium tyres. So yeah, an undercut is enormous, especially at circuits where there is very high tyre wear. The power of the undercut cannot be understated, and cannot be overstated, sorry. And yeah, we're going to see a lot of drivers just following other drivers into the pits just to make sure that they don't get overtaken through an undercut. Okay, yeah, Logan Sargent up in 11th place. He's 1 point away from the points. George Russell is up 10 positions. Now, that is obviously because quite a few drivers ahead of him have come into the pits. So, yeah, but he's going to be looking to try and overtake Valtteri Bottas ahead of him, the driver that he replaced at Mercedes. He's going into turn number 1, and what can
Neon braking doesn't feel right.
it's coming from the other side of the garage quite clearly, and being told as well to look after the brakes, and not like mechanically as such, but just to make sure that he doesn't lock up the rear tyres, because that's been a trait of his into turn 1 and at turn 2 so far.
Pierre Gasly, who has not had the best of races here and didn't start at Silverstone, isn't going to finish this one. He's going to have to retire the car, as Lewis Hamilton, currently in 3rd place, is looking in his mirrors to the left to see where Max Verstappen is. Verstappen's right behind him. I say that.
A -5 brake pace, and the thing just doesn't turn. It's unbelievable.
Verstappen is clearly having an issue with the way his car is handling and the way this race is evolving today. He's already had to give 1 place back right at the start, which he didn't enjoy, and we've had several reports on the radio and feedback about just what he doesn't like about this car.
Very keen to know if Piastri's had any kind of issue, whether he just had a bit of a run wide and got his tyres dirty, whatever. He's 2/10 faster than Norris in the first sector of this lap. But with Hamilton and Verstappen scrapping, it's giving McLaren a bit of breathing space.
Just watch Nico Hülkenberg here, overtaking Zhou Guanyu down the straights, and then Zhou Guanyu finding himself under pressure from Alex Albon going into turn 1. Back to the live action, and here is Max Verstappen, who is now out of DRS range from Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez gets past line.
Well, we've got 19 runners, haven't we? But 3/4 of them are in the same part of the racetrack.
I wonder then, did Piastri lose time because he was trying to lap back markers and got dirty tyres because he had to get onto the marbles? That could be why he lost so much time. Here goes Verstappen again, has a little look into turn 1, nothing doing. So we move now down towards turn 2, more DRS for Verstappen, gets a good exit. Hamilton's using some charge from his ERS system to stay ahead. He's staying ahead by less than the car length, going through turn 2, stays ahead through turn 3 as well. Verstappen is closer now than he has been before, and still being that close, can't quite get the room to make a move into turn 4.
Max will be on the phone saying 2 moves to defend up into turn 4, but Lewis is having to have 5 stabs at getting around a corner sometimes.
Do you think there were 2 moves into turn 4?
Well, we'll have to see it again from the head-on angle, but Lewis was definitely making his car very wide.
Fernando Alonso pits down in 11th place now as Tsunoda goes past Bottas, and Ricciardo will get past 2, and he'll hopefully come out for him ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Verstappen now just 7/10 behind Lewis Hamilton. Out in front, the gap is now 1.5 seconds. Piastri from Norris. Charles Leclerc is still gaining on this battle as they make their way around the final corner. You'll see Leclerc right there, and you have done. Not quite in DRS range yet. Verstappen's got DRS, 16 kilometers an hour, extra speed. He's not as close to Hamilton on this occasion. This is really frustrating for Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton doing to him what Fernando Alonso did to Lewis a few years ago here to hold him up. Stout defending. There's your race leader, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and there's the back markers in between this battle, Hamilton and Verstappen.
Yeah, Verstappen then, he's clearly got greater speed at the moment, but he can't drive through.
And lap gap now is 1.3. Okay to race the Papaya car, but still the mid-40s.
Mid-40s, 40 laps.
Yeah.
Into the 40s for the next stop. But who knows? We'll find out. But there's no doubt about it. I think Piastri settled down a little bit. But that lovely gap he had, the cushion he had to have the luxury of doing an extra lap and wait to see what everybody else does, has gone.
It certainly has. Oscar Piastri, who I'm sure as a kid dreamt of a Grand Prix win and made his way into Formula One as...
He was told to pit, but he didn't pit.
He didn't. Was that the dummy call from Mercedes? No, they then told him to stay out. Maybe they just felt Verstappen was not quite close enough in terms of time to make a move, so you might as well stay out for an extra lap.
And young Charlie Leclerc, now he's got DRS onto the back of Verstappen.
Yeah, Piastri, whose dreams might be coming true today, and he's got 31 laps to try and hold on. Lewis Hamilton desperately trying to hold on.
A long way to go off that down tyre.
Hamilton will be talking, I would imagine, about his next stop here, not the ones that he's currently on.
I always love to see Hamilton versus Verstappen. They're just so aggressive. They go for it, don't they? Such talent these two have got.
Oh, it's fabulous. And you've got
Mode 9. Or press and hold the overtake.
Mode 9.
Then press and hold the overtake, Max. If you're in mode 7, thank you.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. He sounds like a man who could have done better with a better night's sleep last night, Max Verstappen. He's just sounding tetchy and irritable every time we hear him on the radio. But he is in a fight, and that might be having something to do with it, as well as this time Hamilton does pit. So Mercedes have said, right, 30 laps to the end. We'll pull the undercut as Ferrari cover Mercedes with Charles Leclerc. So we're going to get a repeat of the last few laps, I would imagine, towards the end of this race, with Hamilton trying to hold on against Max Verstappen. The pit crews now get to work, and 2.8 seconds, 2.9 seconds for Leclerc. They'll feel that they could have gone about half a second faster, and that half a second, few tenths, might be crucial come the checkered flag here. But they're out safely, back onto the racetrack again, and behind Carlos Sainz, so Hamilton 5th, Charles Leclerc 6th.
Yeah, and some lovely fresh air as well for a little while, these two. So they can nurse these tyres a bit now. They know they've got to do that and to get them to the end of the Grand Prix. And what are we going to see here?
This is our race
10.
leader.
You see, yeah, he backed it in, and that's what we were talking about earlier on. I think that's when he had that horrible 125.8 lap, and his tyres got dirty, and he just turned into the corner. That's quite an old replay.
Yeah, lap 33.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. And yeah, so, and that is why he's lost all that advantage, but he's just starting to eke it back out again.
Now, Hamilton would love to bring these tyres up to a working temperature.
It's quite impressive how we let ourselves get undercut and just completely race.
Well, if it's not the car, it's the strategy for Max Verstappen today. Everything not going his way, according to him. But he had the ability to get past Hamilton and to make that move, but went too deep into turn 2. Does he need, though, Martin, a bigger offset on his tyres next time around?
Probably. What he's saying is, you let Hamilton undercut me, and I've just followed him all those laps. It's ruined my race, but he's still only 11 seconds off the lead, and lapping quite a bit faster than the two McLarens in the previous lap anyway. So they might get a little bit of a hurry up when they see if Max can keep pumping these laps in now. And there are the two McLarens out front.
What might help Max, though, is the challenge that Charles Leclerc is putting down on Lewis Hamilton here. Leclerc's gone onto the medium tyre. They had another set of medium tyres at Ferrari, another new set of mediums.
We think we will not try and cover Hamilton. It's very early to stop now.
Because they're no point. It would ruin our race towards the end of the race, the end of this final stint. But Hamilton really under pressure from Charles Leclerc. He'd like to nurse these tyres, bring it into the right working window gradually over a couple of laps. He can't do that because Leclerc is right on his tail. The gap out in front has increased a little bit now to 1.7 seconds. If they wanted to, at McLaren, pull the undercut on Lando Norris's side of the garage to Oscar Piastri, they could do so.
But surely now Piastri's got first service, has he not? Now that they're this close together, they've put in Lando before to help him cover off the undercut with those behind. But you would imagine the ground rules are now that Piastri gets first service.
Well, that you would expect, only if they felt that from behind Hamilton or Leclerc or Verstappen were a threat to that second place. Would they bring Lando in first as a tactical move?
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So Hamilton's 29 seconds behind the McLarens. A pit stop's about 21, but he's lapping a second to a second and a half faster. So McLaren won't have the luxury of staying out there too much longer.
Ted, down to you.
Just talking about laps to go, and it will be 28 laps that Charles Leclerc needs to do on these medium tyres. So no wonder that Leclerc is trying to get past Hamilton now. It's now or never for Leclerc, because he's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard for him to keep those tyres alive towards the end of the stint. Just a lot of radio traffic between the McLaren pit wall and Oscar Piastri. Do you think he can? Do you think you can still get to your target lap time? Oscar saying, yeah, pretty much. And just a final thought on Max Verstappen v his strategists. Well, I mean, yes, they did allow themselves to get undercut by Lewis Hamilton, but I think the case is, the real point is that Max does not have a car that he's comfortable with. It's got loads of understeer. Max hates that, and if the car wasn't like that, then Max probably would have been able to get past Hamilton despite being undercut.
And I think, Martin, as well, one extra thing that could be irking Max Verstappen here is the realisation that if he delays his pit stop much longer, Charles Leclerc is going to be ahead of him when he comes out. Leclerc will be on the same medium tyres that Verstappen will likely go on to. So it's not just Hamilton he's going to try and get past, it'll be Leclerc first.
Yeah, and just to remind you, Hamilton pitted 5 laps before Verstappen. That's why he had the pace on those hard compound tyres and got ahead of him. So, again, Piastri and Norris, they're very close, aren't they, as they're deploying and charging their battery and navigating their way through again. They're coming up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back markers, the 2 leaders, having just passed 4.
Daniel Ricciardo around the outside. Sounds like a song, doesn't it? Ahead of Valtteri Bottas to 12th place, and we can go to Sky Race Control.
So yeah, just listening to Lando Norris's radio, and they told him that a few laps ago, this was now, that unacceptable speed was carried around turn 4 for the tyre management. So he obviously wants to push on the best he can to try and close the gap to his teammate. The team have spotted that and quickly slapped him on the wrist.
Unacceptable speed. Normally that should be too slow, not too fast.
Unacceptable.
Totally unacceptable. There's Charles Leclerc behind Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc running in 6th place at the moment, but he's pitted twice. Hamilton's pitted twice. The top 4 have all got to pit again. So if you take 20 seconds for an extra pit stop into the equation here, it'll all look a little bit different. And we've got, what, 26 laps to go. When do the top 4 decide to come into the pits? I'll tell you when one of them is coming into the pits. Now, Lando Norris. Lando Norris getting the call to box at McLaren. And is this all about protecting Lando's position here and then maybe swapping places later on in the race, I wonder?
We'll find out. He's got a 2-second deficit to his teammate at the moment, and we're going to assume that Piastri will be in next time around as they get ready. Can they dispatch him in 2-point-something seconds? It's medium compound tyres that's gone on. Yes, they can.
So, you might think that's a used medium for Lando Norris as Carlos Sainz goes past, but it's a scrubbed set of medium tyres. It's done one very slow lap.
Okay, Oscar, Lando has pitted to cover Hamilton, to make sure he covers Hamilton. We'll manage that situation. Best pace from you now, best pace.
Yeah,
okay,
so don't worry about it. We're not trying to give Oscar the undercut and the win. we're protecting a 1-2 here. To go back, Martin, it's a scrub set of medium. McLaren are now doing what Aston Martin have done for a while, but why?
But it just takes that shininess off the top that we see, and whether maybe warm-ups a little bit quicker, especially if you've got a wet, dry day, which of course we haven't today, but they think it might just condition the tyre, give it a sort of a heat cycle without taking any life out of it. But as we said, McLaren had to cover off the likes of Hamilton flying along now, and we know track position is everything around here.
Yeah. Fernando Alonso moves back up into the top 10. His teammate Lance Stroll pits. Stroll, after losing a bit of time in his previous pit stop, will be wanting to not stay there for 4 seconds. And this was Lando Norris locking up as he came out of the pits into turn 1. That won't do the inside right any good.
No, but it's unloaded and he got off the pedal. He got off brake pedal, but he's flying in the middle sector. Yeah, the team might have a little bit of a headache coming up here. But Lando really pushing hard out there. As we see then, Piastri, presumably, he hasn't come in the pits. Norris is absolutely flying on his outlap. And so they'll presumably pit Piastri at the optimum time.
Yep.
And then swap them around a little bit later on.
You mean
now is that optimum time.
As the crew wait patiently even for Oscar Piastri. There's the gap, Norris to Piastri, 18.5 seconds. There's no way Oscar Piastri's pitting and coming out ahead of Lando Norris. You lose at least 20 seconds for your pit stop. There you go on your screen. Piastri just coming down towards turn 12 now. And the crew waiting patiently in the garage before someone says go, 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 as Piastri is going to come in, and they charge out into the sunshine. Sainz at Ferrari's coming in as well.
Yeah, and then Norris will be happy about that because he's tucked up behind Sainz for position at the moment.
Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Yeah, so the Ferrari guys only now coming into the box, but Oscar has had the radio message again to say, don't worry about Lando. So this is a little bit slow on the front right. That's a bit slower than Lando's stop. Lando will take the lead. Oscar's been told, don't worry about Lando, but that's easy for McLaren to say.
Well, that's the plan. And plans don't always get executed, but there goes Lando Norris into a place ahead of his teammate, Oscar Piastri. Verstappen is back out in the lead of this race. He has got to pit again. So McLaren protecting themselves against the charge from Lewis Hamilton.
We stopped too short that first in, mate. Okay, copy.
Who thinks that he's been asked to do a little bit too much on these tyres towards the end of this race. So they're protecting what they see as a 1-2 finish here. But now a call is going to have to be made, if they're being fair, Martin, to say, Lando, give that place back. What do you do if you're Lando Norris? Do you say, hang on a minute, I'm the nearest challenger to Max Verstappen in the championship. I should get the points here.
Well, we're about to find out, aren't we, as to how and what Norris will do. I believe.
Okay, Lando, Oscar has just pitted. He will likely come out just behind you. We'd like to re-establish the order at your convenience.
Oh, he's wide.
Now, got onto the gravel, new gravel track on the outside of turn 12 there, and Oscar Piastri exploring it a lot closer and in it than he really would have wanted to have been.
Yep. So they gave Norris first service, despite him running second of the two. So that will be the deal at that point. Lando will be processing that, I think, to do exactly as he's asked to do, but we'll find out.
As we start the second half of this season, the challenge is on to Red Bull. The chase is on to Red Bull, and McLaren are very much the team that are doing the chasing to Red Bull in terms of the championship standings. 199 points in the last 7 Grand Prix weekends. The top scorers in the last 7 Grand Prix weekends, looking at the moment to take a maximum haul of 44 points from this race. Although not everything is going completely smoothly, and Oscar Piastri would not wanted to have been any more into that gravel than he found himself. Anthony, to you.
Just a thought on that chat between Norris and Piastri. Norris is going to make sure he makes this as hard work, as hard a decision for McLaren as possible. The more he pulls away from his teammate, I feel the harder that decision will be from the team to tell him to back off all that ground to let his teammate pass. This is really important for Piastri right now to drive the stint of his life to try and stay with his teammate.
But also, Martin, not to push too hard and then fall away on his pace right at the end. Race leader, Max Verstappen, pits. Through goes Lando Norris, through goes Oscar Piastri, through goes Lewis Hamilton, and through goes Charles Leclerc. And that's a 2.3 second stop for Max Verstappen, which is half a second shorter than it was for both Hamilton and for Leclerc at their second stops. He's come back out in 5th place. Doesn't like this strategy, isn't happy with what he's being asked to do. But he's closed down gaps in the past, and he's got now, on lap 50, 20 or so laps to get himself back into the podium standings. It's possible.
It is. We've got a 5-horse race. They've sort of dropped sights a little bit. Perez is now doing fastest lap of the Grand Prix by a country mile. And they've finally managed to get Russell and Perez into some clear air after the pit stop ahead of Tsunoda, Alonso, Ricciardo and Stroll. So now they can press on in the Mercedes and the Red Bull respectively.
Right, so Ted Kravitz, let's head down to you.
Not sure Lewis is really liking this strategy. He's been on the radio saying, I think we stopped a bit early. And he's on the medium, of course, we know. Everybody else on the... sorry, he's on the hard, as we know. Everyone else on the medium. Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen. All right, he's held off Leclerc's Hamilton, but... yeah, not really able at the moment, and I think he's worried that he's not going to be able to be a threat to the McLarens at all, despite McLaren's worries about him potentially undercutting them.
Out of interest, Martin, do you reckon there's anyone, apart from Charles Leclerc, who's happy with their strategy in the top 5 at the moment?
They do seem a grumpy bunch today, don't they? But I think Perez is going to clear Russell with this. Russell's got to stop again, yeah? And Perez is flying along nicely, 15 seconds behind Russell, which is less than a pit stop, of course. So Perez then looks like...
Okay, Oscar, so once you get to Lando, we will swap position, but we want to avoid Lando having to give up a lot of race time.
He's got to get there, hasn't he? He's got to get there.
Yeah,
he's
he has.
3.8 behind now is Piastri.
What was that? Once you get to Lando? Not when you get to Lando, once you get to Lando. So, you know, you've got to get there first. And just, you say Russell's got to stop again. He's run hard and he's on medium.
Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have to stop, does he?
Yeah. To me, that could still be in the balance. He doesn't have to, but he might need to.
Yeah. But Perez's pace, having stopped for a second time, is such anyway that he will catch and pass Russell, whether Russell pits or not.
Max Verstappen's pace is pretty decent on this lap, his first lap since he pitted. And Verstappen is catching Charles Leclerc quite nicely, as we can watch Hamilton and Leclerc down the main straight, and Oscar Piastri just heading into turn 1.
20.9 for Max Verstappen, a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix. The problem Piastri's got is as soon as he gets within a couple of seconds of his teammate, he'll start getting the turbulent air, car sliding around a little bit more, hurting his tyres. So it's definitely advantage Norris.
Got to say, though, at this pace, there is plenty of time for Max Verstappen to get himself right on the tail of whichever of the two McLarens is running second, which is why they can ill afford to be giving up any time. There's a second place on the cards here for Max Verstappen, and if McLaren get it wrong, swapping it around, there could be a first place on the cards for Verstappen, and I'm sure that's something that the back of their minds on the McLaren pit wall, they'll be thinking. It'd be hard done by, it would be very unfair on Oscar Piastri to lose this win, but Verstappen's pace might force them to keep it 1 and 2 as it stands currently.
Anthony's got news at Sky Race Control.
Yeah, so Verstappen's tyre delta is 9 laps now to Hamilton. It's 5 laps before in the first round, on the first stint. Now it's 9 laps. I believe that's enough of a tyre delta, a difference, to get that overtake done.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's mediums to hards as well. It's the hard tyre for Lewis Hamilton. The teams commit early to their strategy in terms of the tyres they give back after the practice sessions. Mercedes wanted the hards for the race.
Radio check, please.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, save the tyres in turn 4 and turn 11 then, please.
So he hadn't responded. He's been told to save turn 4 again. And they're like, are you actually hearing us? And he's like, of course I am. But clearly pushing like crazy out there, and he's being told that's where you're damaging your tyres. Last time around, Piastri took 0.6 of a second out of Norris, but Norris is in traffic.
Yeah, he's finding himself behind Esteban Ocon currently, going through turn 9. Oscar Piastri is behind Logan Sargent. Did you ever experience moments of temporary deafness when the team were telling you something you didn't want to hear?
I didn't always have a radio when I was a Formula 1 driver, to be honest, in the early days, let alone anybody to swear at. Apart from myself.
So look, Lewis Hamilton, 12 laps on the hard. Charles Leclerc, 12 laps on the medium. There's the big difference. Verstappen, 3 laps on the medium.
Well, that's some gentle introduction.
No, mate, don't give me that. Now, you guys give me the strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue myself.
So he's been told to go out and not take too much out of the tyres, and he's obviously decided to ignore that. And Gianpiero Lambiase there is taking quite a bit of stick today, isn't he?
Yeah,
From his World Championship leading driver, Max. You know, comes into this race with over 3 races worth of points in his pocket. Advantage.
I don't want to sound too critical, but Max Verstappen is sounding like a man who stayed up late last night doing a sim race, which he did, and then got up early this morning to do a sim race, which he did, rather than getting a good night's sleep in Budapest, which, by the sounds of it, he could probably have done with. 2.2 seconds. George Russell has stopped again. Very neat pit stop from the Mercedes crew, and we're watching from the rear of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, Max Verstappen trying to chase him down. We've seen already in this race how difficult it is to get some overtakes done, especially in this part of the track. But surely Verstappen's fresher tyres will get him past Leclerc in a moment. We'll see. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Just picking up a nice stop for George Russell. Onto the hard tyre, because that's the only new one they had left. So Mercedes also bucking the trend with George Russell, even though we've only got, what have we got, 20 laps to go, Crofty? No, 16.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not a great tyre only to do for 16 laps, but hey, at least he can go and get the most out of them on the opening laps with Verstappen. Crofty, can I stick up for the insomniacs amongst us?
Hang on, you can in 2 seconds. Max Verstappen's got DRS. Charles Leclerc's looking in his left wing mirror to see where Verstappen is. Verstappen thinks about a move into turn 1. That's not going to happen. Now he's going to try and get the move done into turn 2. Has Leclerc got enough of an advantage? We can watch from the rear now into that second corner to stay ahead. Looks to me like he has, Martin.
Yeah, you wonder if Lewis wouldn't be better just backing up a little bit and giving Leclerc the DRS as they head up towards turn 4. You want to get your insomniacs line away, Tedos?
Only that the last time Max did 24 hours with his virtual team, Redline Racing, he won the Grand Prix. So, yeah, he's well used to it, and some of us don't need too much sleep.
Yeah, well, I'll counter that.
We need you to save more tyres, please, and we do want to let Oscar through.
We should have boxed him first then, surely, no?
Doesn't matter.
I mean, it does. For me, maybe.
He is talking about the championship there, not the current race in isolation.
Yeah, well, that's not a given then, is it? That Lando is going to, he wants to discuss that, he wants to argue that point. He's 3.5 seconds ahead on the screen in front of you. And now on the, and he just lost 3. So it's sort of ebbing and flowing between Norris and Piastri. There's nothing between them.
Here comes Verstappen again. He's closer this time around. Charles Leclerc is in a little bit of danger, but manages once again to stay ahead comfortably into turn 1, and then gets a really good traction on the exit and manages to stay ahead into turn 2 as well. Not easy for me to say. I'm just going to counter Ted's line. Max Verstappen, last time he was doing sim racing and went on to win a Grand Prix, was in a car that was way ahead of the field. That is not the case here this weekend. This Red Bull is not the fastest car on the track. He hasn't got that car margin that he used to have.
Well, Russell is the fastest man on the track at the moment at 120.3. He'll set about, oh dear, that's not the right place to be. Too much curb there, but got away with it. And yeah, so Russell then is setting off after Perez, who has indeed got ahead of him, but Russell's coming back with a vengeance. I'll tell you what would bring Perez and Russell into this would be a safety car now.
Yeah, just a bit.
Bringing them, and Sainz for that matter, would bring them right back into the action.
I think it would absolutely transform this race. On board with Charles Leclerc, he's not going to get any assistance from Lewis Hamilton. but he might do from the car in front of him, which is a back marker, and it's one of the Saubers. Now, he hasn't got DRS to try and lap him, lap him, but there goes Verstappen. We didn't see it off board, we didn't see how Verstappen was gaining, but there goes Verstappen into turn one. Charles Leclerc needed a bit of DRS to try and stay ahead there. It didn't happen. Max Verstappen has now got his man, moves up into 4th place.
Yeah, I think he'll drop the Ferrari like a hot potato now and set off after Lewis Hamilton.
And Lando, we still think you're using the tyres too much. Turn 4, turn 11, and the rear's exit, turn 6, turn 9. Oscar's 3.5. I know you'll do the right thing.
Yeah, but it's come down from 3.8, it's now 3.2. I know you'll do the right thing. That's a call from the team to do the team thing. But it's not happening very quickly, and I'm sure they're getting a bit twitchy at McLaren as to whether it's going to happen or not. And as we watch Max Verstappen and his move there on Charles Leclerc, just going to put into your mind, Martin, Oscar Piastri's manager, Mark Webber, knows a thing or two about team orders not being followed through. Multi-21, anybody?
Absolutely. Yeah. Remember doing the podium interviews that day, Multi-21 in Malaysia.
Frostiest day in Kuala Lumpur ever.
As the great Murray Walker would say, cut the atmosphere with a cricket stump.
Yeah. It was evidence right from the moment the driver's got out of the car what Mark Webber thought about that. There's Lando Norris. The Williams of Alex Albon down in 14th, and there is Oscar Piastri. Take the human side out of this, Martin, and think of it strategically for the championship. If you're Andrea Stella on the pit wall, what would you want to see happen?
And Lando, Hiroshi is stressed about the tyre energies.
And that sounds to me like a team that are trying to say, Lando, we're finding another reason why you need to slow down here.
No, a blind glace or something, Lando will be saying in a minute. So, I don't know, this is going to be very interesting. It will be a major issue for McLaren if these places are not swap round, that they'll have to manage down, because that will be a breach of trust that they've been building up, haven't they, in the team?
Yeah.
And they did pit him first. But let's see how it plays out.
It's the sort of incident that either strengthens or ruins a teammate relationship. Because if you're Oscar Piastri, who has been very compliant in his, 35 races so far in his Formula One career, where on occasion, he's had to do the team thing and he's put up with it, made no fuss.
They both have.
Yeah?
To be fair, both McLaren drivers, when told to swap places through the last year and a half, they've done it. They've both done it as they've been building. But all of a sudden, they're looking at a 1-2, and that's a different deal. And Lando will be saying, look, I'm the one second in the World Championship. I'm taking points out of Max Verstappen today.
Turn 4, turn 11. It's going to get boring.
I don't think Lando Norris cares about that, quite frankly. He could get as boring as it wants. He's gone a little bit tone deaf to that particular conversation. Last 1-2 for McLaren, of course, Monza 2021. It was Lando Norris that was behind Daniel Ricciardo, and Lando Norris accepted that situation. However, today's a different story. Piastri's led this race through getting past his teammate into turn 1, getting a better start. He's controlled the race in the way that his team would have expected. By one moment, Martin, where he went off the track at turn 11, he hasn't done anything wrong.
He dipped a tyre in at turn 12 to do as well. We saw that, but Verstappen's not really caught up to the back of Hamilton quite as fast as I thought he would do. The top 4 are all in the low 1 minute 22s. Ted?
I'm just so keenly watching the McLaren pit wall. Andrea Stella's pressing lots of the talkback buttons on his panel. He actually shared a joke with one of his fellow engineers a second ago, but I would not want to be on the wrong side of Andrea Stella. He's a lovely chap, very mild-mannered, but I bet he could give you an absolute pasting if he wanted to, Crofty. Just to tell you who Hiroshi is, it's the McLaren Director of Race Engineering. Hiroshi Imai, he used to be a tyre engineer himself, so he knows how delicate these tyres are. But lots of discussions going on in the McLaren pit wall. I'm sure Andrea Stella, if he has to intervene personally, he will. But, well, it's up to Lando in the end.
And knowing Andrea Stella as I do. He sees his role as team principal to observe and to monitor rather than to tell people how to do their jobs. But, as I'm sure Christian Horner has done in the past, there comes a time when you, as a team principal, do have to step in. And we've seen it. Christian Horner, Ross Brawn over the years as well, have made that comment when they need to make it. You must do this now.
Felipe Fernando is faster than you. Hockenheim.
Yeah, I had to do the interviews that day as well. About as frosty as it was in Kuala Lumpur, I must admit. Right, Lewis Hamilton behind the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. Behind him, here comes Max Verstappen.
Okay, Lando, 10 laps to go. We think both cars are using their tyres too much. Just remember, every single Sunday morning meeting we have.
And now they're getting to the emotions here. You want this guy to be your teammate, you need to move over and let him pass. Otherwise, you're going to have to look him squarely in the eye when you've cost him victory. That's the message behind that radio.
Piastri just lost another 0.8 of a second, lapping Hulkenberg.
Yeah, tell him to catch up then, please.
Would Max Verstappen move over? Would Lewis Hamilton move over? Would Fernando Alonso move over? I just mentioned, because they are the three greats, as it were, in this race. They're the ones with the experience, the race-winning experience. Is this where Lando Norris is coming of age and saying, no, I'm your number one here. I'm the one that's chasing down Max in the championship. You need to give me this victory because it's your best chance of doing something about Max's lead.
Yeah, and when Sebastian Vettel ignored all of this, the team seemed to love him a little bit more back in the day when he was winning 4 straight World Championships.
And I think the 1-2 is not in doubt in normal conditions now for McLaren. The 1-2-3 still up for grabs, though, in terms of the third place, and Lewis Hamilton still holding on to that third spot on what will be a 200th career podium. But Max Verstappen is going to try and get him into turn 2 and snatch that podium position away from him. Verstappen tries to go around the outside. He's going the long way round. He's got just enough room to stay on the track. Lewis Hamilton stays ahead, and Verstappen loses just a bit of ground as he gets his foot down out of turn 2.
And lit the rear tyres up as well. He's very wide. It's dirty out there. And Lewis once again pushing the limits of the driving standard there by running very wide through turn 2.
We saw lap after lap Lewis Hamilton defending against Max Verstappen before their second stop, and once again the undercut worked for Mercedes to keep Lewis ahead of Max Verstappen, but once again Verstappen is coming back at him. And we can see, I think, from the onboard of Verstappen here just how much racing room there was, Martin.
Yeah, so Verstappen's got DRS, that's why he's pulling alongside. He left a car's width, that's fine. And then...
Did you leave the car's width?
I think you were behind at the apex, Max.
Yeah,
okay, whatever.
It's about where your front axle is. When you're going around the outside, your front axle has to be at least level with or ahead of the other driver's mirror, is what the regulations say.
Here we go again then, and you can see Verstappen closing, under braking. He's going to force his way and hits Lewis Hamilton, who braked, watched Verstappen come steaming down the inside and watched Verstappen take himself out of that battle. Now he's been passed by Charles Leclerc as well.
Wow, now we're going to hear a grumpy Max Verstappen, but I think he had to just keep the steering wheel straight to keep slowing the car down. He came in with such speed there. We'll look forward to a replay of that, and Sainz is not far behind him either now. There, Max Verstappen, he hit the ground so hard that would have not...
Lando, he can't catch you up. You've proved your point, and it really doesn't matter.
He's on much bigger size, much pressure, he's still it.
Lando Norris is not...
I mean, I would have tried to undercut anyway. If I didn't, I would have gone long.
Mate, we did the stop sequence in this order for the good of the team. Every
Yeah, I'm fighting for a championship.
Okay,
No,
I'm trying to protect you, mate. I promise, I'm trying to protect you.
This is turning into a discussion over the team radio that McLaren probably do not want. But Lando Norris is not for moving here, and it might take some intervention above. Tom Stallard is, Will Joseph, his race engineer. Meanwhile, this has been noted by race control. Verstappen steaming down the inside. That could have been Verstappen out of this race, and could have been Verstappen injured, because that went a long way up into the air.
Yeah, well, if that's anybody's fault, that's Max's fault. So there's no recriminations there because he didn't.
Move the steering, mate.
So that was Verstappen. He arrived out of control
Absolutely
to that
right.
one.
I think there's a penalty coming Max Verstappen's way for causing a collision there. It's been noted, Martin, but I don't see how that isn't causing a collision.
Yeah, moved under braking.
I'm not even going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. We'll let the stewards do their thing. It's childish on the radio, childish.
I think there are some words coming behind closed doors at McLaren and at Red Bull for two of their drivers.
Pot and kettle springs to mind. So, yeah, he lost control of his car. So that's as clear as now whether the stewards put that down to a racing incident or a penalty for Verstappen. If he does get a penalty, that'll move him back to P6, and be 6th and 7th for Red Bull at that time.
Verstappen's going to lose ground in the championship for the first time this season. He's currently in 5th place. But is Lando Norris taking home 25 points or 18 points? Remember when Lewis Hamilton let Valtteri Bottas through here in Budapest on the very last corner? Might that be something Lando Norris is thinking about after he's proved his point and then done what the team have requested him to do? It would be a very plausible strategy.
It's going to have to be a big lift now on the last lap, though, isn't it? 5.8 seconds his lead.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Hamilton continues on then in 3rd place. Leclerc ahead of Verstappen, but Sainz now the challenger to Max Verstappen, who has just driven and sounded irritable and annoyed and furious and just irked throughout this entire race, ever since he was asked to give the place back to Lando Norris from the start. It's 30 degrees air temperature, and at times it seems like it's boiling over in the cockpit somewhat. 6 seconds, by the way, now, the gap, Norris to Piastri.
Yeah, and it's still 47 out on the track as well, and we're gone 4:30 in the afternoon here in Budapest, so the heat is very much still piling in there.
5 laps to go of a very eventful Hungarian Grand Prix. What a way to kickstart the second half of the season. And for McLaren, that 1-2 in the Constructors' Championship battle.
And Lando, there are 5 laps to go. The way to win a championship is not by yourself, it's with the team. You're going to need Oscar, and you're going to need the team.
This is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, just McLaren are into their absolute glory moment of an easy 1-2 with the fastest car and 2 great drivers, and they're having to go through this.
Well, they're on course at the moment with the 44-point haul.
The longer we leave this, the riskier it gets.
Finally, we
Understood, Oscar. We're managing it.
Finally, we hear from Oscar Piastri in this debate. Yeah, 44-point haul. Red Bull started 78 points ahead of McLaren. They're going to make a severe dent into the margin here. And on a day that they should be celebrating, as it stands at the moment, there will be a debrief. Yeah, they'll be smiling in the garage, but there'll be a debrief, Martin, that might be as equally in-depth and, shall we say, problem-solving as they had after Silverstone, when they threw away a potential race victory there. Stewards are going to look at the Verstappen-Hamilton incident and Verstappen for causing a collision after this race. But you could say as well, Martin, you know you've made it as a team and a championship challenger when you're having to sort out issues between your drivers out on track.
It's a nice problem to have, but it is, yeah, they really wish they didn't have it at the moment, and Lando doesn't want to play ball. He wants to make a statement. If he does this, I agree with you. I think it will be on the very last lap to really make his point of, and he said, I would have tried to undercut him. I would have tried to overcut him. I'd have stayed out longer. You know, I caught him up. He had a wobble in turn 11. I caught him up.
So if there's a safety car now, it's going to make this very awkward. Please do it now.
Ted Kravitz, down to you.
If he starts to do it, Crofty, just jump in. Andrea Stella, the team boss of McLaren, telling Will Joseph, Lando's engineer, more and more things to tell Lando Norris. I'm just wondering what Lando's trying to prove here. Is he trying to prove that without Oscar gaining the lead at the start, he would have won the race? Is he trying to prove that he's not too nice?
Ted, he is trying to prove that he is a team player.
He's slow.
Eventually.
He's slow now. He's letting it happen.
3 laps to go. Oscar Piastri can see Lando Norris going very slowly down the straight. Oscar Piastri takes the lead of this race, and that was the right thing to do. Well done, eventually, Lando Norris.
Yeah, you don't need to say anything.
Well, Lando can try and keep in DRS range here, never go back at him yet, but he really did get out of it down the pit straight. That is the moment that he followed. It was a team order, wasn't it?
Yes,
it was not an instruction, it was not a request, it was an order.
Now, he's put his team through it, but he's eventually done the right thing. The thing is, Martin, he is now still within DRS range.
Yeah.
So what's the orders? Is he allowed to fight back?
He can race the papayas, was the what we heard earlier on. But
the mid-40s.
Yeah. He probably needed to keep a little bit closer down the pit straight to give himself a chance in these last couple of laps.
76 points, the championship lead will be at the end of this race, unless Max Verstappen is given a penalty by the stewards, and it could be a lot closer. Out on track, the two McLarens within a second of each other here, and we've got 2 laps to go as they cross the line once more. And is Lando Norris about to give us one more twist and turn in a dramatic Hungarian Grand Prix? His teammate Oscar Piastri leads this race. He has been second in Qatar and in Monaco last year, and in Monaco and Austria this year. He's looking at a first Grand Prix victory. But Lando Norris is going to make him fight and sweat for it right to the checkered flag.
Yeah, if Lando wanted to be really cheeky, he should have just eased off, let it happen, and stay very close to him. But nervous times for McLaren. And they're coming up to the back of Alonso, Stroll and Tsunoda. They should be all right.
There are people who will feel that Lando Norris should win this race. There are people who feel Oscar Piastri should win this race. There is no doubt that McLaren have bounced back from Silverstone with a very impressive 1-2 here at the Hungaro rig. But they'll want to sit down and discuss how it is that in the most dominant car, they cause themselves quite a kerfuffle on the way to the checkered flag.
And now Lando's in the turbulent air. He's lost a couple of tenths through the middle sector of the lap. But what formation flying. What a race for McLaren.
One more lap to go as they cross the line for the last time, and this is Lando Norris's last real attempt to try and get near to Oscar Piastri, but he's outside the DRS range, so that isn't going to happen. In third, Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc not getting near him. Max Verstappen currently in fifth, holding off Carlos. Phil Oscar Piastri should. That McLaren have bounced back. Very impressive 1-2 to sit down and discuss. They cause themselves
formation flying. What a...
One more lap to go as they cross. This is Lando Norris's last real near to Oscar Piastri. So that isn't going to happen. Charles Leclerc not getting near him. Holding off Carlos Sainz. Sergio Perez from his qualifying crash yesterday to currently ride in facing Sergio Perez, but to deny that 7th place for Perez. Currently on course to score. Might fancy that he can get past Yuki Tsunoda. Flag. We've had one retirement. Pierre Gasly lead the race at the start. McLaren gave Hamilton in third and the better strategy. Then kept their fingers crossed that obey the team orders to let, and Oscar did get past, and more corners to go. As a young child growing up in Melbourne, Formula One has finally come. Piastri, Grand Prix winner, the first time takes the checker step of a Grand Prix podium. Lando Norris would obey the team orders to let Oscar past. And Oscar did get past, and Oscar Piastri now has 2 more corners to go to do something that he dreamed of as a young child growing up in Melbourne, and in his second season in Formula One has finally come to pass. It is Oscar Piastri, Grand Prix winner, winner in Hungary, and for the first time takes the checkered flag and will stand on the top step of a Grand Prix podium. It's a McLaren 1-2 as we start the second half of the season. They're the big chasers to Red Bull. It's Lewis Hamilton for third and a 200th career podium in Formula One. And behind them, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen,